second. Okay, so who am I and why am I talking about this? So here are a couple of facts and yeah, also possibilities of getting in touch. Just in case, I always show them at the beginning and then at the end, just for the situation that someone drops out in between. And I'm talking about this topic today because I'm working as a digital marketing manager at Factorio in Hamburg. And I am not a software developer. And I think that is a very, not so rare combination in a community like the Drupal community is. Because for people like me and also maybe for you, it's always difficult to do or to contribute or to get involved in contribution projects because it is very hard to find the first step to get it started. And I'm working with Drupal for around 3 years now. And in my current employer, it's like the first experience that I have in a tech company. And it's also my first time participating in an open source community. So I'd like to talk about the story. So how did I end up being where I am today? Then I also want to talk about contributions as a whole. And then afterwards, I'd like to share a couple of ways to collaborate or to get involved in contribution projects and also show a couple of examples, example projects that I've been working with in the past. And afterwards, hopefully, we can get a nice Q&A with a lot of questions. Apparently, we have some more time as expected, so I hope that we can have a nice discussion afterwards. So why am I here? I'm working for a company where contribution is very important. We have a dedicated number of days a year where we are allowed to work on contribution projects. And the story here begins roughly 1.5 years in the past. It was the global contribution weekend, January 2022. So my first global contribution weekend working with Factorial. And what I had in mind when this weekend was approaching is that we gather around on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m., all having breakfast together and work on a work collaboratively on an agenda on how or what to approach for the upcoming weekend. So I was preparing myself for that day. I was sitting in front of my computer and I was really waiting for some other colleagues of mine from the university to kind of like kick off the whole thing and help out with the whole organization of the weekend. And then the weekend was here and everybody just started to work on stuff. And I was sitting there and had basically no idea what to do. And it was very hard for me to get involved. And after I approached a colleague and I said, is there any plan for the weekend? Are we working on something together? He said, like, no, everyone's just working on bugs and like contributing to modules and fixing stuff and bringing stuff forward. And I was like, okay, so how do you contribute when you're not a developer? And flash forward, second part of the story leads to a vacation trip to Mexico, to a little island called Isla Holbox, where I spent time with my girlfriend. And we were visiting an animal shelter where they have a lot of dogs and cats that were picked up from the streets with sometimes a leg was missing, sometimes their sight was damaged and stuff like that. And seeing that, also from the perspective of my girlfriend, who is a dog owner, was obviously very heartwarming, and we wanted to do something in order to support them. But we didn't quite know how, and I had this funny feeling because this reminded me of the Global Contribution Weekend 1 year earlier, where I was kind of in the same situation, wanted to help, but I just didn't know where to start. And my girlfriend had a great idea, and at first I was a little bit insecure and unsure about it because I thought, okay, what's that going to change? Because she's a hobby photographer, and she had the idea of taking pictures of the animals. And I thought, okay, so how is this going to help them in any situation? But then she started taking pictures of the animals, and then it kind of hit me, because that animal shelter is communicating a lot over social media, especially because they are visible for the huge amount of tourists coming to the island. And with her contribution of taking pictures of those animals, she created content for their socials that helped the animal shelter and the organization behind it to kind of promote the animals that they have, and it led to a higher percentage of tourists actually adopting the animals. And that gave me a very interesting feeling, because only coming from something that she enjoys doing, she actually made a huge step to contribute to a higher cause and helping this organization. So this led to the thought that I had, that a variety of skills can be actually used to contribute, also when you're not a software developer. And I think the first step here always is to find your shtick. And that is something that every one of us has. So a shtick is like a hobby or something that you're very good at, that can be turned into a potential value for a project or for someone else. And the first lesson of this talk is that you need to find something that you're good at and that you enjoy doing, and that you start bringing that to the table. So how to participate in contribution projects when you're not having a software developer background? With that question, I did a lot of research, and I also asked ChatGPT, because I thought, like, whatever, maybe it can help. It can create some meaningful content. And I was actually blown away by the huge amount of things that I found out that can actually help in contribution projects that has nothing to do with software development. And this is only a very, very small fraction of the things that I found out and the things that I stumbled upon. And there are a variety of skills involved here, and a variety of also disciplines like project management, design, marketing, event management, public relations, and a lot of other things. And I'm sure every one of you, or each and every one of you, find something in this list where you would say, nah, I could do that as well. And I think that's very important to know, that all of these things somehow can contribute to those projects. So now I'm going to talk about a couple of things that coming from me and from my perspective, because I'm here with a marketing background. So first thing for me was to find my shtick, and my shtick here can be narrowed down to these couple of things, and that is the area of communication and networking. That is also storytelling and content. That is research and analysis, and that is also management and coordination. And last but not least, and I think that's very important, that is also something that Christian, my colleague, mentioned in the previous talk this afternoon. He said that you have, when you're looking on a project, on a module, on a piece of software or whatever, when you're looking on that from an outside perspective, you have this user perspective that is very beneficial for the core maintainer or for the owner of the software, because it gives them this additional feedback from someone from outside. And no matter what your discipline or your skill set is, you will always be also a user that can contribute by simply giving feedback to the project. And now I would like to highlight a couple of things that, especially with a marketing background, are very beneficial for contribution projects. And the first one is we. When I say we, I mean marketing. We create stories, and we do that by sharpening the story of the project owner, the core maintainer, or the module builder. And we highlight the core features in a way that also non-technical users and non-technical people can understand it. And I think that's very important, because at the end of the day, people with my background are very much likely also the decision makers that finally make the call of using the software that's built by some Drupal developer or some other software that's out there that just made it more like tangible what the core features are. And we create also stories by visualizing your work with infographics, with logos, with branding, and with other activities that kind of like chime in also design. But here I think marketing is very good in creating the briefing on the basis of which the design can do their work. And last but not least, we set up the business case. I think that's also very important because, again, it's about like highlighting the core features of a software and highlighting them in the way that people with a non-technical background can understand it. The next aspect is we set the stage. And when I say we set the stage, I mean we organize and host events. And we also help the software developers preparing their talks, giving feedback, helping them setting up the presentation deck. And what we also do is we can gather the audience, not only by finding it, but also by inviting it, taking care of the whole communicational aspect here, and yeah, getting them involved and getting them to participate in the events. And obviously we can also take care of the whole organizational part, including like catering, including the program, the communication, as I said. So I think this is also very important. And the third aspect is we amplify your message. And with that, I mean that we support not only in finding the right content that is appropriate in order to be distributed, but we also help in selecting the best appropriate channels and distribute the message. And most importantly, also not only distributing the message, but also managing the echo that's coming back. So for example, comments in social media where people need to find like more in-depth information, or any other inquiries that may be going in the direction of a new business approach and stuff like that. That is something that we can definitely also manage. And now I would like to talk about a couple of examples of contribution projects where I was involved. And the first one that I'd like to talk about is the relaunch of the German Drupal website. That project started this year during the Global Contribution Weekend. So second Global Contribution Weekend, this time a lot of more orientation of what to do and where to start. And I got involved in this project here. And the website is very, very old. You can tell from the screenshot. So my first reaction was also, okay, they need help. There is a lot of work to do. And what I did here, and sorry for the screenshot that is way too small, but I also don't want to spoil too much about what's going to come, because yeah, we are still in the progress of finalizing a couple of things, and I don't want to give too much information away in advance. And what I did here was I did a lot of research of all the existing content management systems and other software that's out there in order to create web-based applications. And I put all that stuff and all the research in a presentation and highlighted, like, I took a look at the information architecture, I took a look at the content formats that they are using, I took a look at their like overall look and feel, and kind of, yeah, a lot of findings that I also afterwards implemented in this wireframe were derived from that research. And also what I did was I did a lot of user interviews, because at the end of the day, this German version of the Drupal website is not only for people with my background, but it's also for agencies, giving them arguments why they should work with Drupal, and also especially for developers, giving them all the resources that they need in order to get going and get involved in the whole Drupal realm. Yeah, so after I did the research and the user interviews, I worked on an information architecture for the new Drupal website. So it's supposed to be an MVP containing like the most important things that need to be implemented. And afterwards, I did a content brainstorming about formats, about the structure, the tonality, and all that stuff. And now I'm currently working on the copywriting part, so creating the text for the website. And I forgot to mention, it's very important when I talk about these projects and also the projects that will follow, it's always a group effort. So it's not projects that I worked on myself. It's always a project where I was involved in as part of a bigger group. So a lot of credit also goes out to other people that worked with me collaboratively on these projects. Yeah, and this is roughly a project plan of that relaunch project. So it was kicked off in January, and we're currently in July, so in the bottom right corner. And we're currently dealing with the prototype of the website, and the launch will be someday later this year. I don't want to nail down an exact date because at the end of the day, we're all working full-time, and this is a contribution project, so we do that after work or during the contribution days. And so it will be launching during 2023. The next project I would like to talk about is the Drupal Splash Awards, Germany Austria 222. And we were very lucky at Factorial to not only help organizing the event and the Drupal or the Splash Awards ceremony in November in our office, but I was also heavily involved in the whole marketing and PR activities around that. And in case you have never heard about the Splash Awards so far, it's an award where you can submit web projects that were built with Drupal. And we are doing that in a lot of cases in collaboration with the Austrian Drupal community. And it was a very impressive event because we had around 40 projects submitted from more than 20 different agencies from Austria and from Germany. And we awarded projects in 9 categories, and there were also 5 honorable mentions afterwards, highlighting specific aspects of projects that needed to be highlighted, although they didn't win an award. They didn't win an award. And what I especially liked about that event was that during the submission process, projects need to give a lot of information about the modules that have been used during the building of these web projects. And there was one module actually winning, or one project that was built with a specific module, the ECA module, won an award in the category Solutions. And that module created by Jürgen actually is the topic of a talk that Jürgen is going to present tomorrow. And I can definitely recommend stopping by. And the other project that was also focusing on a Drupal module, the module Civicus, that was awarded with an honorable mention that was called the Community Award. And as I said, I not only worked on the whole event organizational part, but I also was involved in the marketing and PR activities, creating blog articles for the Drop Times, and also a lot of blog articles for the website of the Splash Awards. Not talking about the whole social media coverage that we did, raising awareness for the awards, and also highlighting the expertise that was involved in so many of these web projects that were submitted. And here's a little spoiler for this year, in case you haven't heard it yet. There will be Splash Awards again, this time because it's kind of a rotating system. This year we are going to Mannheim in Germany, and the submissions are currently open, and the deadline to submit projects is the 8th of September. And we don't have a final date yet regarding the award ceremony, but it will be in November this year. And it's again a collaboration of the Drupal Germany and the Austrian community. What I also did was supporting a couple of our own software developers from the Factorial team with their news that they wanted to share. And here's one example where I created a blog article together with Christian regarding a group release. And what I did here was a little bit helping out with the structure of the article and also visualizing a couple of things, giving a more 360-degree perspective for all the website visitors. And another project here is the Decoupled Menu Initiative that is also where one of my colleagues, Shibin, is participating in. And here in this blog article, we kind of highlighted the results of a hackathon that was done doing a contribution day. And then to other projects, this time it was a pitch presentation for this year's Pittsburgh contest. Christian already also told the audience about it in his earlier talk, that he was one of the winners, creating this or being funded for his project of policy-based access in core. And I helped him setting up the pitch presentation for that. And we also created a video tutorial series, including a full guide to group version 2 and 3, in order to lower the barrier for people actually starting to work with group and just don't know where to begin with. And then something that I can definitely recommend for people that would like to contribute. This is a very low-hanging fruit. Last year in October, we started hosting the Drupal user group Hamburg in our office every month. And what I'm doing here is organizing the meetup, taking care of the speaker coordination and the marketing activities surrounding it. And I think it's a very effective way of bringing your local Drupal community back to life. And people are so very thankful if you take care of this. And they just have to show up and talk about Drupal. Right, so I have 3 main takeaways from today's session that I would like to give you. The first one is find your shtick. So find something that you're good at, find something that you enjoy doing, and find something that you can turn into a value for a contribution project. Then the second one is spread the word. So it's not only enough to know what you're good at, but also talk about it with other people, because in that case, people know when to get in touch with you, because in that situation, when they get to a challenge where they don't really know how to push things forward, and they remember that whatever your shtick is perfectly suitable for that situation, then they will approach you. So you also need to talk about your shtick. And the third thing is doing what I'm doing right now. So share your projects, share your successes, and get more people with a non-developing background involved in order to increase the whole contribution and orientation of contribution for non-technical people. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. And looking forward to your questions. Also fine if you don't have any.
Congratulations for your talk. I'd like to ask you if you have considered about translations, because this is a big work, a big area there about translations. As far as I know, it's usually the core is usually not translating to German in your case. And did you consider also doing translations?
I haven't considered them so far, but since I heard that also the whole Drupal.org website will be having a German version soonish, I think it's very important to think about bilingual or localizations of the content. So it's definitely a topic that I will get involved in, yes. Thank you for your question.
I just want to comment that the thought is actually really cool that you decided on contributing in a non-Drupal developer sense. So I think that is really cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just learned from that situation of being completely helpless. Because if I see a module page on Drupal.org, first thing is I most likely don't understand what it's about, because it's written from somebody who's like already so far down the rabbit hole. And also all these like requests and tickets that are attached to that often lack context information for people like me from outside. So it's like very hard to just grab something and say, yeah, let's get started.
wanted to ask you as a marketer, where do you think Drupal stands as a platform, and what would your suggestion be on developers to contribute toward the direction that helps marketing through Drupal? I mean, enabling marketers to do a better job with Drupal. Well, what's the direction we should be going to?
I think actually it's about creating content that people from the outside world can understand is the most important topic that we need to do, because the Drupal community is so experienced in what they're doing, and since it's a very relatively old framework, people that work with it for numerous years, so they kind of lack this perspective of being completely new to the whole Drupal world. And when I was working on this Drupal relaunch project in Germany, I realized that if you Google Drupal on YouTube and you Google tutorials for learning Drupal, they start on a level that is completely not suitable for people really doing their first steps. So what I proposed now, and I'm really positive that this is also going through, is that we as Factorial will start creating tutorials really for beginners, really explaining what's an entity and all that stuff for Drupal developers in order to get started. And also by doing that relaunch for that website, I think it also gives potential companies more information about how Drupal is today, because the website clearly is a remnant of Drupal from old times. And I think if you visit that website in Germany, as a company deciding what content management system is suitable for us, they see that website and they think this is how Drupal looks like today. And that's obviously not true. So I think we need to show a lot of content highlighting the power of Drupal today, because especially in Germany, I'm not sure how it's in Austria, but Typo 3 is massively famous in Germany and is the most present content management system. And Drupal kind of lost that battle already 10 to 12 years ago. And with websites like the German one, we are not really catching up. So I think there's a lot of marketing effort actually necessary to kind of convince the community and also the industry what Drupal can do. Does that answer your question? Okay, that's fine for me. Okay, and once again, thanks for your attention. And if you have anything else, just approach me and yeah, get in touch.